Hi guys, so I thought I'd pop on today and do a little bit of a different one. So I know I've mentioned in previous videos I needed to take a little bit of a break from my marathon training. It was an 8-day break in total. I thought consistency meant having to hit every run in my runner app, in my marathon training app. But what I've learned from taking that break is that's not true. As it is important to hit your runs and try and hit your target, but sometimes you need to take a little bit of a break, and that's sort of what I've learned. Well, what I learned in them 8 days. So it says it's like 3 mistakes, but they all sort of run into one. But what I'm going to do is go through them one by one and why I needed to take that break, why it was important for me to take that break, and the benefits of taking that break, and why it would have probably done more damage than good if I hadn't. So, reason number one was I hadn't increased my fueling as my mileage increased. So, it's a little bit more detailed than that. At the start of the year, I won't say I was on a diet, but I was changing some habits that I'd created as I'd been going through a bad period of mental health. I was I was eating a lot of takeaways, getting food delivered, cooking. I was cooking quick, easy meals. So as I'd noticed, my weight had dramatically increased on the scales, which it's not really something that's ever happened with me. I've generally been into eating healthy and trying to keep a healthy lifestyle, but with a decrease in my mental health, I'd created some bad habits. So at the start of the year, I went on a bit of a diet plan, tracking my calories, making sure I was on adequate calories to lose the weight that I wanted. And then when I could start my marathon training, I made the mistake of not increasing my fueling, so I'd stuck with the calories that I was on, which was 1,800 calories, and I found myself starting to feel a little bit low energy. And then after that, I'd also started to feel a little bit dizzy through the day, and that made me look into why. So I don't use it consistently, but I've got quite a bit of experience with tracking calories without using MyFitnessPal, but to give myself that little bit of accountability, I was tracking my calories in MyFitnessPal. So my calories on that for the weight that I wanted to lose at a steady rate was 1,800, and I hadn't increased that. Well, I hadn't inputted the new data of what I was doing, i.e. marathon training, the weight loss that I'd had. I hadn't inputted that into MyFitnessPal, so I was still eating them sort of calories, and that wasn't enough for what I needed. So I'd found myself feeling low energy, not even just having the calories in me to keep going to feel healthy. I found myself starting to feel dizzy, etc. So yeah, that was my first mistake, which was not increasing my calories and my fueling for the amount of exercise and training that I was doing. So what we'll say is mistake number 2 is I ignored the warning signs. Now these warning signs don't come thick and fast, they come slowly. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself about that, but the warning signs was there. I started struggling a lot more on my runs. I do have quite a physically demanding job. I'm on my feet for a long time through the day. I'm on my feet for 12 hours a day, and at times I was doing runs before work, so I was getting in 30 plus K steps a day. So I started feeling low energy, feeling what I'd say is a little bit meh, but it's just low energy, not feeling myself, finding myself very drained throughout the day, and these symptoms progressed. So on the week before I decided to take the break from running, I actually started feeling dizzy. I put it down to just having a little bit of a head rush, stuff like that. But when I updated everything in my fitness pal, I noticed that I was probably around 500 calories down on what I needed to eat. So it's not a small amount. It was actually considerably high amount that put me on a 500-600 calorie deficit, and I'd already lost 15 kilos, which is quite a decent amount of weight. So you can imagine after losing that weight and then being that many calories down, you can imagine the impact that it was having. I was feeling dizzy, I had brain fog, I had no energy. I was struggling to get myself up and going. The runs was harder. By the end of the day, I was just feeling so drained, and I had brain fog as well on top of that. So it's not the best. So I inputted all the new data into my fitness pal because I sort of clicked to what it was, but I just sort of wanted to get that reassured to me, because I'm not I'm not qualified in this. I haven't got a PT license. I ain't got anything like that. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionalist. I've just got a little bit of experience from years of going to the gym and weightlifting and that sort of stuff. So I thought, I know the easiest way for me to do this is have a look in my fitness pal, input my new weight and my new activity levels, and it told me that rather than being on between 1,800 2,000 calories a day, I actually need to be eating with my current levels 2,500 calories a day, because I am getting 3 runs in a week, and these aren't just your odd 5Ks. I mean, my mileage is getting up to 15, 16, 17Ks in my long run, which I did 17K today, and even my shorter runs, they're generally anything between, as it stands, they're between 6 and 10K, and I'm doing that 3 times a week. So as you can imagine, doing that level of exercise and going to the gym a couple of times a week or working out at home to do what I'll say is my rehab sort of, well, not rehab sort of work, but my conditioning work to have injury prevention with the mileage that I'm doing. That's quite a drastic difference in calories, and it's quite a drastic difference in activity levels through the day. So yeah, what I was doing is ignoring the warning signs. Like I say, I'm not going to be hard on myself about that. It's not like these all came on in a wanna. These came on one by one, and they gradually got worse throughout the time. But yeah, my energy levels, and I wasn't fueling correctly for the amount of activity that I was doing per day. Now, the one that links into these two is one of the other mistakes that I made is I was ignoring these warning signs. Now, it wasn't just the dizziness didn't just kick in for one day and then I was like, there's something wrong here. I continued to try and push myself at first throughout these symptoms kicking in. I tried to push myself, and the day that I realised that I needed to do something about it is the day I did a 13K run into work, and then I had a very demanding day at work. So I had a very, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of my day, but yeah, I had a very demanding day at work, and then towards the end of the day, I had about 3-4 periods of me starting to get dizzy, and that's even with fueling myself a little bit more. But I think because I'd spent that time not listening to the warning signs, I'd spent that time ignoring, thinking, I'm just a little bit run down. My body's not used to this demand of training. So I just sort of ignored them, and yeah, it didn't do me any good. On that last day, I came home and I felt so drained. I had a headache. I was feeling sick, shaky, everything, and that's when I sort of realised that something's not right here. I didn't think it was anything to do with me being poorly. Yes, maybe I was run down, but again, I didn't put it down to me being poorly or having a flu or anything like that, because it wasn't them sort of symptoms. It was a little bit different. Again, I want to specify that I'm not qualified in this, and if you do have these sort of symptoms, I would advise going to see a doctor or a specialist. Don't go by what someone's saying on YouTube. This is just my personal experience. But with me putting the information and sort of using my personal experience in the past, and realising that at the start of the year I was on a fat loss journey, and then now I've sort of gone onto a marathon training plan, that I put two and two together, inputted the information into an app online which told me that I wasn't eating enough. I needed to get more fuel in me. So that's why I decided to take that break from my marathon training, and I genuinely think it was the best thing that I could have done. Now, like I said, I do believe these reasons all sort of link into one, but I just wanted to separate them a little bit so I could just go into a little bit more information into each reason. So, and I also think taking these 8 days off probably did me more good than it would have to try and push myself to continue through. If I'd pushed myself to continue through, I could have risked things going a lot worse. It could have, I could have ended up quite poorly from it. I could have ended up getting an injury on a run because I was pushing myself too far, and I didn't have the energy in me to do what I needed to do. So I took the 8 days and I used that time to refuel myself. Now, I didn't want to go straight from eating between 1,800 calories and 2,000 calories a day into eating 2,500 calories in one day. So I did that gradually over a couple of days, and the only reason I was able to do that is because I dedicated myself into having that break, and I think it was very important that I did that. So I took my 8 days, and then my first run back, it was meant to have been a 15k. Now, rather than trying to push myself too hard and get to that full 15k, I thought the longest run I've done, I can't remember whether it was an 11k or 12k. So I'll try and get myself between that 13 and 14k mark. And then on Monday, so I had what should have been, I believe it was a 6k progressive run. Now, I did add a little bit extra onto that because I didn't want to let myself fall too far behind on my mileage, and I've been able to fiddle about with my plan a little bit and just put an extra run in this week as I missed my weekend's long run. So if I hadn't have done that, I'd have missed my 13k long run and my 17k long run. So the run backs that I've done, it was a 13.6k. I did my 6k, which was actually a 7k progressive long run, and then today I did my 17k long run. Now, I didn't quite hit the pacings that I needed to on that. But again, that's not something I'm going to kick myself for. I did have a break. I have missed a long run, so I have had to make a couple of considerable jumps. But that's fine. It's not necessarily, you don't want to beat yourself up about these small things. At the end of the day, it's just about getting out there and getting in what you can and trying to stay as consistent as what you can. Sometimes life is going to get in the way, and that isn't something that you should beat yourself up for. That's just life. That's normal. It's going to happen to everybody. Training for a marathon isn't a straight line. It's not going to go perfectly, But as long as you do what you can and try and stick to it as much as what you can and listen to your body, I can't stress that. I can't stress that anymore. That's the most important thing that you need to do, is listen to your body. And if you do feel like something isn't right, or you're not fueling yourself enough, or whatever it is, listen to that and just try and find what works best for you. And if you do that, that's the most important thing that you can do. But yeah, that's what we'll say is, like I said it was sort of 3 mistakes that I've made that made me need to have just over a week's break from my marathon training, but in reality all of them link into one. So I just thought I'd put this video out there, and if it helps anybody or if it gives people information that is beneficial to them, then I'm happy. And I'm also wanting to put my training out there just to show that training for stuff like this isn't perfect, and it's okay for everyone. Everyone doesn't need to be perfect. Every training week does not need to be perfect, but stay as consistent as you can, fuel your body right, and make sure you're doing it for you. These are a couple of reasons that I'm doing this. As I've mentioned previously, this marathon for me, I am actually raising money for a local charity. To me, that means a lot to me, but that's not the full reason I'm doing this. I'm also doing this as I did have a bit of a dip in my mental health, shall we say, and training for me is as important as anything else can be. So if I can earn some money for charity and also get myself back into a routine with my training, and also spread a little bit of awareness in regards to mental health, I'm happy. So yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. And if you want to see more of my journey from pretty much started again from zero to running a marathon, like and subscribe to the video, or yeah, just keep an eye out for more videos from myself. And thank you for listening, and I hope this is helpful for someone out there.